Thank you for downloading this episode of the Nerdball Podcast. Number 200. Can you believe it? I've done 200 episodes of this podcast, and it has been fun every episode along the way. And I can't thank you all enough. This is something I do obviously for me, but I tell you guys, it's for you guys too. Like you guys listen, you guys download, you share, subscribe. Thank you for all that. 200 episodes. It's exciting and it makes me excited for more, because people still want to come on here, and I'm getting in a pretty bad habit of saying, hey, you want to come on the podcast? And people are like, yeah, just let me know when. And then I never speak to them again. So I have to get better at writing stuff down. But this one, 200th episode. This is with a good friend of mine named George. We've been friends since high school. And I couldn't think of a better person to have for 200. He has some great stories, great hobbies that we talked about. And he's listened to probably every single one of these for the most part. And so I'm excited for you guys to listen to this episode. But again, thank you so much for following along this podcast, being a part of it. If you've been a part for 2 episodes or all 200, I love you being there and any little part that you play. Please keep liking, sharing, reviewing, subscribing this thing. Check out the YouTube page. Get subscribers to there. If you haven't subscribed, just hit that button. It really doesn't do anything for you, and it helps the show out to gain more listeners. So again, thank you all listeners. Thank you all watchers, viewers of the podcast. 200 is a big milestone, but we're going to keep going here. So I appreciate you all. Here's the new episode 200.
Hi, I'm George Smith, and this is the Nerdball Podcast.
This is the Nerdball Podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
That was wonderful, George Smith. George, thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Man, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah,
I love your work, man. You know this.
Hard-hitting question. When did you become such an avid listener of 3 Different Dads?
I think right off the jump, man. I really liked it. Yeah, I liked it right off the jump. I haven't missed an episode.
That's good. I thank you, and that's why we thank you every episode too. So yeah.
It's hard to believe the one time that you guys had me pop on, I was asking for like advice on the hospital, the delivery process, about to beat that. And now Jane is like 15 months old.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, time flies, man.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for coming on. And like I always ask every guest, and you're well aware. First question out the gate: what is something what have you been nerding out about? Something you're super into, hobby, something that you just started, something you've done for a while, whatever gets you away from the daily grind of work, man.
Yeah. So I think if you asked my friends out here what that is for me, they would be like, pick a thing. Cause like, I mean, in the past couple of years, I'll just get into something. And then like 3 months later, I'm like, nah, I'm not interested in that anymore.
Yeah.
Gone from like praying mantids to, metal detecting and stuff. But
Wait. Time out. What? Yeah. Okay. What'd you say about praying mantis?
So I read something online, or like my sister sent me some science journal about how the praying mantis is the only invertebrate we know of that can see in 3D. Oh. And it's the only animal in the whole kingdom that has one ear, and it's in the middle of its thorax.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, that's so weird. And so I started getting like more and more into mantids, and I eventually started like hatching them and raising them and stuff.
Wait, really?
Yeah. And like I have this one named Madre for like Mother Teresa because of praying mantis.
Yeah.
And, I raised that one all the way through 7 molts, and then I eventually like let it go because I felt it was becoming self-aware. It was like I would come in to the apartment. It would like tap on its cage until I took the top off, and then it would come from the top of its cage, jump onto my hand, and then just like hang on my hand for.
So, wow, that's wild.
Yeah, it made me tons of friends. Everyone likes the bug guy.
Your sister loved it, probably.
She actually, she did. She's a parasitologist. Studies wasps and stuff. But to the gardening note, I guess, or to the mantis note, my hobby has become your profession, and it's just I finally have a house here in San Diego, and how zones have numbers of what grows there.
Yeah.
We're in zone 10, which is just like whatever you want,
Yep.
So, I mean, I've got a banana tree, I've got all scorpion and ghost peppers, passion fruit. And so landscaping and growing stuff has become the newest focus. And my daughter.
Well, that's
Yeah.
so the question, yes, and some people answer the question like that. Oh, my kids are they're old now, they're older now, so I take them here or there. They're my hobby, and I never say it because I think that's just what they believe at the time. But like Andrea uses that too. Like, my kids are my hobby. It's like, no, your kids are your kids. Like, you're a dad. That's yes, that's your job. That's your hobby. That's your passion. That's like a no-brainer to me. Like, that's part of it. So what's outside of that? While I'm sure she appreciates being acknowledged on this fantastic podcast, like,
she listens to them all too, Jane.
Yeah, I'm sure. But so gardening, do you think this new gardening thing is because, like, it is because you have a house, but were you like thinking about it like, man, I can't wait to have a house so I can have all these things and do all these things? Or was it after you bought the house?
To be honest, it was like it started as more like an aesthetic interest. I thought it would be cool if you go, because we got this backyard that's pretty private and stuff here in San Diego. It's got some nice views, and like, so to also have like a garden kind of surrounding the whole outside, I thought would just like look pretty. But then as stuff actually started to come in and watching things bloom and watching the fruit show up and stuff, I was like, okay, now I just like that part. I mean, I like doubled down on cucumbers this summer, and I jarred like 50 jars of pickles. So I'm just like a lonely old lady. I've got the hobbies of an lonely old lady, but
oh man, I have all the Jerk Canyon stuff in my garage. I used it 1 year and now it's just there.
Yeah. No, I dig it. But what's your newest thing? You're always picking up something new.
I think my newest thing isn't a thing I did for a while and now it's not. Or now I think I did for a while and then I stopped. And now I'm doing it again. It's comedy, man. Like, I'm really like excited about it. And now I think I have like expectations on it now, as far as I never had the expectations like, oh, I'm gonna get a Netflix special next week. But like, even now, like, I'm not gonna go to open mics because it's just not feasible right now for my job and for time and that kind of stuff. But I am gonna do these shows with Jake, Levi and Lilac. We got a show coming up on November 22nd. It's a comedy show. I'm doing 15 minutes. I haven't done 15 minutes in 6 years. So
you got it. You've got it.
Yeah. So that's kind of a new thing. And what I've been doing, and I told a couple of my friends at work this, I go, guys, like, they're talking about the show and they want to come to the show. And I was like, I can't hit open mics. So I use you guys all the time and you don't know it. Cause like, I have a story in my head. I'm like, all right, I got to get the story out. So I'm going to we're on a car ride somewhere. I'm going to tell them right now and throw my jokes in there and do everything. I go, you guys don't, I'm just telling you guys a story. That's what it sounds like. But for me, it's an open mic, but it's one person and I'm getting information from them, seeing how it is, So
if no one laughs, you just pull out a notepad and you start scratching shit off. Damn it. But it's been wild to watch that evolution, man, like, of your stand-up. Because when you and I started, I know I started doing it a little before you did, but like, it was so much more not underground. That sounds too.
It just wasn't fashionable.
Yeah, it was. Like, if you ran into someone now that's like, I do stand up, people, oh yeah. I mean, there's tons of opportunities to get on the mic in San Diego now. But back then, I felt like you were the only other friend that I had, or the only person like I really knew in my network that also liked to do stand up. So but man, your evolution. When I listen to your sets now, I mean, it's tight. I'm really stoked to hear 15 minutes. You think you're going to just take like kind of the greatest hits of the last couple of years and compile it, or are you going to do new stuff?
So what's crazy to me is that the 5 minutes I did that I sent you from the other show about my siblings and the secret baby and that kind of stuff. That's the first time I did that in front of people. Like, and even the other comics there that were friends of mine, you're like, wait, you haven't told that? I go, well, I've told it to people. I told it on a podcast, like, but not in front of people. And like, it excited me because I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's totally not what to do. You shouldn't go with new material to a show that's paid to like do these things, and I think that's what's going to happen with this next one. Is I'll probably still do that one again, except add more stuff, a little more things to it. Maybe like another, just like a minute's worth of stuff. But I have other stories that I have been working on, talking to people and writing down, that I'm going to do also, with the hope of, I hope it goes well. We'll see what happens. But but it's exciting. It's exciting.
I learned that lesson one time when I my first year in California. I entered this. It was the longest running comedy competition in California at the time, at a place called the Ice House in Pasadena. I'm sure you've probably seen like the Ice House. And it was like I don't know, maybe 100 comics. And I won, and they let me open up for some Mad TV guys in the main room. And I'm like, this is the venue. This is the time to try out some new stuff. I don't know what.
I would never.
Yeah, and it was like, so it was like 2 shows Friday night, 2 shows Saturday night. And the first show Friday night, I just absolutely bombed. Nothing worked. Not like it did. I was like, why did I wait until like right now when I'm with actual comedians in a pack house to try like some new stuff out, and none of it landed. And like that is, I don't know if anyone else like listening does stand up. There's a very unique feeling to be like putting yourself out there, trying to tell jokes to a room full of people and getting nothing back.
Yeah.
You just want to be like, the lights get hot all of a sudden. You just want to be like, you just want to walk off the stage. But
yeah, man, it's an awful feeling. That happened one time where I got to write every word I say. And I did it one time. I'm like, I'll figure it out on stage. And I did not. And I did. There was a 5-minute open mic. I did like 3 minutes, and I was like, all right, see ya, bye.
I'm the same way. And that was the only thing that would let me like sway in and out. If I wanted to do crowd work, or someone drops something, or, you know, something happens in the room, like the only way that I felt comfortable swaying out and playing that is knowing exactly what I was going back to, like knowing my some people can do it just, you know, and flow. Like Dave Chappelle can just go up there and be like, I'm just going to talk about whatever. No, man, that would be disastrous.
He also has the benefit of being Dave Chappelle, and people are just like, if it's half funny, they'll think it's really funny because it's Dave Chappelle, you know? I kind of hang my hat on being like really a real good storyteller, regardless if I'm telling it on stage or if I'm just talking to somebody. I think it's because I talk so much, like at work, on these podcasts, like I'm just always talking. So I develop skills, maybe I don't even know, like develop just conversation skills and storytelling skills, where it helps me like do these stories for the first time in front of people where they paid to see something. And I think what I talk about is funny. I mean, the 2 stories I have that I haven't done yet. There's one about an encounter I had with a guy at one of the parks that I run, and it was a wild conversation. And I learned from I forget someone else, I forget who, another comedian, where like they write down their story, and then like on their page they leave blank spaces after each sentence, and then see if they can fit a joke in those sentences. And sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. And then another story is just these from coaching softball. I was sitting on the bench while we were out in the field, and there was 2 girls still on our bench, 8-year-old girls. And one of them says the most wild thing I never would ever imagine a little girl saying. And like, just the story itself is like, I'm excited to say that part, because the true thing of it is hilarious. Like,
I know this story. I know what it is. I where would I have heard you tell it? Did you tell it on 3 Different Dads?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what it was. I can't remember the exact details, but I remember you misconstrued, or she used a term wrong that you were like,
correct.
Whoa. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
So I'm excited for that, because the actual true thing is hilarious.
Yeah.
And I just add little bits to it. And maybe that's only a 2.5-minute story, but it's another thing. But I am going to do some of my other old stuff. I've been going through like old videos and things like that. So I'm excited for that too, to kind of like go over some of the stuff that I really enjoyed doing when I did do it. So
you got to highlight the Mateo stories. Those are always my favorite. The magic show, the meatball sandwiches. Yeah, those are the best.
It's so funny to me now, because when I told that story, he was like 3. And now he's 12.
And he looks like he's 33.
Yeah. Oh, we're 15 minutes in this episode, and I forgot to even mention that this is my 200th episode. And I wanted to have you on because you've been listening for a while. You're one of my really good friends, and I already decided, and I'm telling you right now on the podcast, that you're going to come on for every 100th episode. So that's just going to be the running thing now. So
so first off, this morning when I was talking to my wife about it, I'm like, I think it's his 200, and then I'm like, no, never. That's ridiculous. And then I was like, no, really, I think it really is his 200th episode. But I told you this a million times, man. It's a testament to you don't do anything halfway. Like, when you do something, you do it well, you do it 100%, you stick with it, even if like there's adversity or obstacle, or you're busy with other stuff. And yeah, I really respect it, man.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's exciting. And again, I thank you for coming on for the 200th, because I did text you specifically saying, hey, come out here. And at the time I was like at like 187 or something like that. And I'm like, all right, well, we got time. And now I'm at 196 now. So I was like, man, we gotta get this thing recorded so we don't miss it.
I'm honored, man. Sincerely, I'm honored to be a part of it. So.
Another question I had for you. When did we become really good friends? Because I was thinking about it at your wedding, because in high school we were friends, we hung out, but we had two separate friend groups. Yeah. And every once in a while those friend groups would mingle, more times than not. We were all really good friends, but they were their own two friend groups.
Yeah.
So we hung out a little bit in high school. Obviously we had some classes together, but I don't remember when it like solidified to what it is now. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's just like, hey, we've been friends for forever. There's no sense in like saying, here's when it happened. But I just, I was just curious if there was something in your mind, like when
yeah.
it just like
shifted. So I remember the first time I was aware of who you were. I went for a year to an all boys Catholic school, which it was probably about as good an idea as trying new material at your first real show in Los Angeles. But I was over at our buddy Ryan's house, and he had a picture of the football team, and I'm going through, and I'm like, oh, I know all these guys. And I was like, who the hell is that? Like, who's this giant, brown man? And then you were in my sophomore year math class, and we got along right off the rip. But by junior year, I remember before math class, I would stop at your locker, and that's the neither did me incident.
Yes.
So I mean, we were good enough friends that like on the way to that class, I would always stop and talk to you, and then we'd go up together. So I would say junior year, we were getting there. Yeah. For sure.
Neither did me. That is so funny to me, because that's over 20 years old now, where I sorry, I've been, kids will get you sick, man. I asked you if you did your homework, and you said no, and then I said neither did me, and that is like stuck.
Yeah, you went caveman out of nowhere, and it's like you've always been a well-spoken guy, so it caught us both so off guard that I was just like, oh, you just forgot the context of basic English for a second. But
it was so good.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, so I'd say junior year, and I think like once Ryan Deering developed the friendship with Kurt Wells, I think that's kind of was like what blended the friend groups together. But
yeah, that was because it was as we got more into high school, I do remember hanging out more of a bigger group. And even then it was maybe a couple from this one and a couple from this one, but it was more, it happened more.
Yeah.
I always think it's funny. And I'm interested in seeing as Mateo gets older, like when you're in high school or even in junior high, you're friends with your friends and you're having fun and you're doing this. Like today I dropped him off down the street. When I came home, I saw 5 or 6 of his friends hanging out at this church, just in a parking lot, like a bunch of ragamuffins. They're just in there hanging out. So I was like, hey, Mateo, some of your friends are down at the church if you want me to drop you off. He's like, yeah. So I drove down there and I said goodbye, and they started playing football or whatever. And that's when I started thinking like, are they going to be friends like forever, like into high school, or even us? Like we're almost 40 and we're still friends. And like I just started thinking like when you're in high, you're just in the moment, man. And as you get older, I guess that's what happens. You reflect as you get older. But there's some of those things I try to think like, did we even think about future at all?
Well, my mom jokes that she's like, if George met a homeless guy in a gas station parking lot and a year later you're like, I wonder what that guy's up to, George will be like, no, he just actually got a job at the like. And I think you and I have that in common, that like we actively keep up with people. And you're one of the people that, it's weird because I lived in New Jersey until I was like 11. Then I moved to Ohio, and now actually I've lived in California longer than I've lived in any state. And Ohio seemed like it was like, the place I've been the longest for. And I was like, man, no, actually I've been here longer than anything. And obviously as time passes, both you and your friends both have to make an effort. And I think that's what you and I have in common. We keep in touch. We like reach out, we check in on people. And if that's not reciprocated, eventually you kind of cut ties with people. You're like, if I'm always reaching out to check in on this person, eventually you're like, all right, well, whatever. Because, my buddy who happens to live down the road from Perrysburg, Alex Dausch, and by the way, you said Teresa Weber listens to this podcast sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. If she listens to this, we were just talking about Teresa Weber, Alex Dausch, and I. You're awesome. But Alex, Dausch is like, well, you're the only one I talked to from high school. People grow apart. And I was like, oh no, man, I talked to tons of people from high school, like tons. So I think like the likelihood that Mateo will maintain that friendship is based on like the effort that they put in, otherwise it's not organic,
I have most, if not all of my friends are from high school. And, I've made other friends along the way, which is always a weirder thing as an adult. And most of the time, and you'll find out as your daughter gets older, you become friends with your kids' friends' parents because they hang out a lot. It's just, you become friends by proximity, which sometimes is good. Sometimes it works out really good. Sometimes it doesn't at all. And you just drop your kid off at their house and say goodbye, but it's being friends. And I think there's more people like Alex, I feel like where he does say that there's more people that feel that way than that are like us that have friendships from high school.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, you're right. I think what helps too is having a few people that are in the friend group that are willing to not only reach out to each other like we do, but also talk about these other guys that are friends too, because it still keeps them in the loop or keeps them up to date with what's happening. So whenever you do talk to Jimmy or Tyler or whoever, you're aware of things that are happening in their lives where it's not like a brand new conversation that you have to start.
Yeah, I can agree. I mean, not only do you facilitate the guys trip, but even, individual friendships. Like, I don't know if I would have talked to Tyler Zollers again if it would have been, but now I'm like, oh, cool, man. I like this guy. Like, it's like, it took you to like remind me that I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's cool. It's nice to like, to know who this guy is. So, I can agree with that. And to your point about Mateo's friends' parents, have you ever actively pushed either of the kids to stop hanging out with another kid strictly because you didn't like their parents?
No, that hasn't happened. And because a lot of times it's very seasonal. So if Mateo's friends with someone that's on the baseball team, they're hanging out during baseball season. If it's football season, they're hanging out during football season. And so there is never really a time where we're all together. Um, and it probably happens more when we actually do like each other. So then we'll make a point like, hey, I'm going to drop Mateo off. You want to hang out for a little bit or whatever,
Yeah, right.
A really easy one is a neighbor. I have a neighbor 2 houses down. His son's a freshman and his daughter's in the same grade as Mateo. So, and they live 2 houses down. So we hang out quite a bit. Like if my kids are over there swimming and I'm going to pick them up at 9:00, we won't come home till 11 because now I'm sitting there drinking some beers, hanging out with them, whatever, and so that's an organic thing too. But you still also have to like each other. Just because you live 2 houses down doesn't mean you're going to hit it off,
Sure. Yeah.
But becoming friends with as an adult with other adults, there's so much more baggage and things about adults, where as a kid you're like, hey, are you cool? I'm cool. We like Fortnite. We're friends now. Like that doesn't happen as adults. There's a lot more things you have to have in common.
So when's the last time that you made a new friend that was not brought into your life either by work, a partner of Andrea's friend, or by the kids? Like, have you had that within the past?
The one that comes to mind was brought in through Tyler, that he worked with Tyler, and he lives down the street. He bought my old truck. We hung out, me, Tyler, and him hung out a few weekends ago watching football. We say hi. I mean, we don't always hang out, but we're friendly with each other. I don't know if that qualifies. I don't know. That's hard because it is. I guess that's how you make friends anyway. Like, but I did one time, and this is so funny. One time, This was years ago. I took the kids to Chick-fil-A. It was just me and the kids. I don't know where Andrea was at, or she was out of town for work or something. Took the kids to Chick-fil-A. They're playing in the play place, and there's another dad there with his kids without his partner. And we just started talking, whatever, and our kids were playing, so we were sitting staring at each other from across two tables, and one thing led to another, and they ended up coming to our Memorial Day party that we used to have every year. They came, brought his whole family. He even lent me this giant blow up house thing that they had so the kids could play around in it at this party. And it was just from meeting this guy at Chick-fil-A. And every once in a while, I see him still. And he's a football official. So I see him at least once during football season. So, but yeah, it's just from hanging out at Chick-fil-A.
It's not easy. Like
No.
I was in a master's program. I sat next to this dude named Rob, and we got along immediately. Like we liked each other. We respected the way that each other thought about education and like educational leadership and everything. And then we just like, both were making each other laugh. But when I was wanting him to ask him to hang out, it was like asking a girl to dance in middle school. Like I was just like trying to be like, I don't know, man, you'd want like before class, get a beard, make class less stupid, just try to find ways to like, just be like, hey man, I like you. Would you want to hang out outside of here? It's like, it's not an easy thing to make happen if it doesn't just kind of like fall into your lap. Or like you said, like, oh, well, the kids have to hang out anyway. We might as well have a beer. It's harder and harder as time goes on.
Yeah, but it is fun. And you brought up the guys trip, and I'm now that we were just in San Diego for your wedding, I am looking forward to that now, because that's going to be insane. Man.
Yeah. To look at the price that we should have paid for that house versus what we got, it's going to be awesome. And it's a good crew. I feel like it's a group of guys that are like going to be appreciative of what took, what we got. So
so when we were in San Diego for your wedding, first of all, I don't know if I told you, but I did take you up on the offer of walking to the airport to pick up Andrea.
Yeah.
Which was fine. Like I enjoyed the walk. There was a lot of construction at the airport, so I was nervous because I was on the side I needed to be on, but I had to cross the other side of the road because of construction. And then I got to where I needed to get into the airport, and that road was under construction, and it said the sidewalk was closed. And I looked at my phone, and I was like, all right, well, if I don't go down this road that I'm not supposed to go down, then I got to go all the way around, and I don't know if I'll be there in time. So I was like, all right, I'm just walking down. I guess I'm walking down. No sidewalk, no nothing. There's construction walls everywhere, and I'm like, this is what I got to do. So I weaved my way through there and made it. But it was fun. It was a cool walk. I just had my headphones in and listened to podcasts, and it was nice weather. I enjoyed it. I'm glad you said something like you should go walk, because it was fun. I did like it.
Yeah. So to those who haven't been here, San Diego is unique in that like most airports are not in the city they're named after. Like if you land in Denver, you're like, dude, this is not Denver. Like, same thing with Detroit.
Yeah.
But San Diego is dead set in the middle of the city, to the point that pilots have to get like a special kind of license to like land amongst the buildings. And to the point that there's some buildings that if you're on top of them when a plane lands, you're actually looking down at the top of the plane as it comes in. So like the top of the plane is above the building. I'm sorry, the top of the building's above the plane.
It was crazy. Even at your venue, like every 8 minutes, there's just planes just zooming over.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But yeah, man, I'm glad you took me up on it. And you did such an awesome job, man. Everyone's been talking about your officiating since that time. You really crushed it, man. You had everyone laughing. So
that was a lot of fun too. And that was another walk I did. The day before I walked. That's when I texted you that San Diego smelled like pee. And as I was walking through downtown, and I just happened to pass a Rite Aid or something, and I found a bunch of crafts to make those little buttons or whatever I made.
Yeah.
But that was another fun walk to go down all the way down to those shopping centers and stuff. But yeah, it's cool. I could easily live there. It's just super expensive. And
it is, yeah. And the city itself, it's weird that San Diego is like the actual downtown is one of the least desirable places to live, in my opinion. And that seems to be the general consensus of folks that live here. But it was already kind of that way. Just like downtown Toledo, you don't like, I don't know what it's like now, but I mean, like, it's not the place that you just like walk around at night and you're like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
But then COVID came, And, you know, a lot of the resident or the commercial buildings shut down. So no one was moving, you know, the homeless folks along. And we obviously have a big homeless issue, because if you were homeless, what's better city to be in, you know, from a climate perspective.
Yep.
And so by the end of COVID, I mean, it got pretty gnarly. So in defense of San Diego, it doesn't all smell like piss, but I definitely can empathize that the area you were in certainly must have smelled like piss. Yeah. So
Andrea made fun of me too, because I told her, because I was there a couple days before her. I was like, "Yep, I ate dinner at the hotel and I had breakfast at the hotel." She goes, "You didn't go out anywhere else?" I go,
"Smells like piss out there. Why would I go?"
No.
Yeah.
No, I was just there and I didn't feel like getting dressed to go eat breakfast yet. So it was cool. Yeah, we had a great time. I'm glad we stayed extra too. But yeah, it was fun. And like I said, I can't wait for the boys to go there now. Mateo said he wanted to go. I was like, it's not that kind of boys trip, buddy. Sorry.
One day, I mean, soon enough. Your dad was there the last one for a little while, so
yeah,
we'll come. But yeah, I'd like to take one if anybody's interested in spearfishing. I mean, I probably have enough gear to take one other person.
You know how I bet would do it? I bet Sparks would do it.
I bet you're right. Yeah, I bet you would do it. Yeah,
he was one that was pretty amped to go on one of those kayaks too. I was terrified the entire time, but he kept me straight, so I'm good. Yeah. I didn't fall, so
yeah.
I think he would do it. Erwin would probably do it.
Yeah.
There's a couple people. Yeah, it is nice too to know like there's at least one thing planned. I'm excited to go to that baseball game. You know, it's just I love baseball, so and seeing another ballpark and you know and everything like that, I think it would be cool.
See, I think baseball's the pits, but I'm going to come with you guys.
I know. I'm sure there's other people that feel that way too, but.
God, dude, and I know they're trying to make it better, but I'm just like, dude, come on, move it along. How many times are you going to check first base? How many times are you going to throw that little?
They put a rule in that for that now, though.
Good.
Yeah, you could only do it twice, and if you do it a third time, I think it's a ball, like or a ball.
If you do it a third time, all the umps go boring, and they point at you, and everyone's boring. It's so boring. Stop it.
Penalty.
Boring penalty, but.
Yeah,
but so that would be folks in the water. It's been a while since I've been in the water. I don't know how much more spearfishing I'm going to do.
Yeah, I used to do that a lot. Yeah.
I did, yeah, and I had one run in with sharks, with angry sharks. That kind of like you start to think of things different when you have a kid. But lobster season started in October, so I like to get back in there and grab lobsters.
I've been on. When I go on TikTok, there's this account I follow where all this guy does is kill lionfish.
Yeah.
And he
super just intrusive off Florida. But the thing, so that's the only time where like if you go to like the Reddit spearfishing community, if you're wearing scuba gear and you're killing lionfish, no problem. No one's gonna bother you. Because you're enforcing what needs to be done for the ecosystem, and they're super invasive. But there's other people off of Florida, especially, that will spearfish in scuba gear, and it's like that is a no-no in this.
Really?
Yeah, because if you go in scuba gear, and I think when a lot of people think of spearfishing, they think of like Tom Hanks standing on that rock in Castaway, and but really you're underwater. You wear weights, you dive down. The weights get you to a point of neutral buoyancy where you don't float back to the top of the surface, and then fish are curious, so they bolt. If you don't happen to come lucky enough to just come right down on one as you dive down, but they want to come back and check you out and see what's up. And so if you have scuba gear, there's no sport in it. Like eventually the fish are going to come check you out, and then it's just a matter of like pointing your giant harpoon gun and just shooting them. So the sport is doing it in a breath. So that can be the tough thing, is sometimes you'll be like, oh, there's this big fish, and it's like coming back to check you out, but you're like monitoring your own breath, and you're like, I can't stay. I gotta go up. And so that's the sport, you know. I mean, imagine if you were a hunter and you went in the woods, and if you stood still for long enough, a bunch of deer just started running in circles around you to see what you were up to. You know, there's no sport in that. But.
Wow, that's I mean, it makes 100%. Or what the fuck was I gonna say? I'm losing it. It makes sense.
But the lion, that's the one thing, is when you watch lionfish video, if you ever hear that they're wearing scuba gear, no one has a problem with that. Kill the lionfish. Yeah. But if you watch any other spearfishing video and they're wearing scuba gear, it's like, dude, come on.
I try to think too when I watch that guy, and I'm like, okay, he's killing lionfish, but like, how much of a dent is he doing, like to Because there's got to be a bazillion of them, right?
I think exactly. A billion as of this morning. Yeah, the lionfish count.
So this morning, you got your report.
Yeah. I got a ticker in my office.
There was a this girl who discovered that there were lionfish in her fresh water, like river or stream. And
I don't know, man.
yeah, and she started doing like her science fair project. She was like a 6th grade or 7th grade girl. Her science fair project was trying to see how long they could survive in that. So she like had all these in salt water, and then every day she would add like a certain amount of fresh water, and like they just kept living. And then like she ended her science fair because she's in 6th grade, and then now other actual scientists are like mimicking her studies to see like what it's all about. It's like cool, like this invasive thing now can be in any water.
Yeah, I'll bet, man. Yeah, and that's why there's just like no sensitivity for them to just take them out. But I mean, all fish are survivors to the point that there's this one area where I've gone out and there's a marine preserve. And if you look at the shoreline, there's a yellow line painted on the shoreline that says like, it's basically telling people this is where the marine preserve ends. So any rules associated with the marine preserve are terminated when you go beyond this painted line back on the shore. And as you swim around the marine preserve, like there's this thing called a calico bass that, usually is maybe like, I don't know, 18 inches long on the high end when you see them. And these calico bass that look like Goliath grouper. I mean, like giant head stuff swimming around the marine preserve, like basically bumping into you as you're swimming around. And the second you go past that invisible line, it's just deep blue. There's nothing and then they know the fish have like caught on to the fact that like they know where that line is, and like they don't mess with it, all stay in the preserve, even though there's nothing actually in the water to indicate that like where it starts and ends. So
that's wild.
Yeah, fish are survivors, man. They're smarter than indicated.
And delicious.
Yeah, delicious. Yeah, for the most part.
Does it feel any different when you are hunting, spearfishing something and eating it? Like, does it make you feel better than everybody else?
So I'm less confident eating something that I took out of the ocean than buying from the grocery store, which it should be the opposite.
Yes, it should.
Myself and being like, maybe this isn't the species I thought it was. Or like, you can pull like urchin out or like, different kinds of crabs and stuff. And I'll break like a crab open and I'll be like, that's weird. What color? Like as though the grocery store checked the inside of the crab. But no, I haven't gotten to the point where I'm like, yeah, this is more pure. This is better. I still second guess myself that I killed the right thing or.
That's crazy to me because you're seeing every part of what's happening.
Yeah.
You're doing it, and you're like,
well,
maybe I don't know. Did I clean my spear from the last fish I had? I don't know.
Well, yeah. So, and to the point of killing the right thing, one of the craziest or scariest things that I experienced while spearfishing was it was kind of like murky. And there's these things called sheephead that have these red heads and black bodies, and they're pretty like easy to distinguish. But it was murky. And there's one coming by. There's one that like is I think it's coming by, and it's about the right size. I'm like, that's a big sheephead. But I hesitate for a little while just to make absolutely certain that it's not like a Garibaldi or a protected fish or something like that. And as the murk like starts to clear and it gets closer than me, it's just a baby seal that's got itself tucked into the form going by. And I was like, oh my God, dude, that would have been. There's no talking your way out of that, man. Like I can't go out of the water with that baby seal on a hardwood. Yeah, so you have to be like certain what you're shooting, like that's not a juvenile this, it's a full grown this. Like you got like and so it's hard to resist because sometimes you want to catch something, you want to bring something home, and the hesitation sometimes you will be like, I should have shot, why did I but for moments like that you're like, no, I gotta be patient.
Oh my God, man. Have you ever shot something because I'm assuming everything you shoot it's to eat, right?
Everything you shoot is to eat. Yeah.
So is there something that you thought, like in that case, have you ever done that where you shot something, you're like, oh, I probably should have done that?
No, not certain. I was with one guy that he thought that he'd shot a large, whatever, sea trout, and it ended up being like a small sheephead because everything also has like, you can't shoot this unless it's this big. You can't shoot this. Oh,
yeah.
And the game warden was waiting on the shore and they caught him. And luckily they're like, okay, you're just dumb. You didn't know that you did that on, you didn't do this on purpose, but you can't just shoot things unless you're sure. But no, I mean, I've seen things that I'm like, I wonder if I could, like I've seen moray eel. And I'm like, can you eat those? Like, do I shoot this thing? But like left it alone. But yeah, never shot anything I wasn't supposed to.
Man, that's you almost shot a baby seal. God dang. Just speared it right in the dome.
I was certain it was a sheephead. Yeah. And then one other time with seals, when I was lobster diving, because lobsters are nocturnal, at least the ones that are out here in San Diego are. They don't have claws like Maine lobsters. They're just spiny. So their protection is all barbs and armor, but they don't have any claws. So they like live kind of in rocks and crevices so you swim down to the bottom, you'll see maybe like a little rock ledge, and you kind of like pull yourself under, you look under, and they live in like groups, so one time you got to do it again at night. It's nocturnal. I go down, I'm like looking under, you got a flashlight attached to your other hand, and I'm looking at them, and over my shoulder, I feel the shadow, like this thing that just stalled. And this is the same place where the shark was. It was a short fin mako that was scared the hell out of me a few weeks before. And I like look behind me, and it's a full grown seal just floating behind me, looking at what I'm doing. And when I turned and looked at him, he just looked at me like, hey, what's up? Like, anything? And but like to feel the shadow, being in the ocean, under the ocean, in the darkness is already a pretty eerie feeling. But
what's up, buddy?
Yeah, he's like, got anything? What's up? So,
oh my god, all of that sounds terrifying. Like I would eat the food that you would catch, but swimming, no. Having to hold my breath and concentrate on hopefully shooting the right thing. Yes, it's a sheephead, but it's too tiny. Like it's just so much stuff. I mean, I guess that's why people love that thing. But yeah,
I literally said, when my buddy told me, because my buddy's a great surfer, and when he told me like this is the spot where the lobsters are, because originally I would go lobster diving off of a jetty, like a long stone kind of pier. And so you're literally like, if something was weird, you're right against the rocks, you can pull yourself out of the water and you can climb out. And he's like, no, this is where the lobsters are, off this reef where we have to swim like maybe 100 yards off from the shoreline. And I'm like, I'm never doing that in my life, So I had the exact same mentality, but like the ocean is to that point about the forest and hunting, and if the deer came around, like every time I'm in the ocean for a sustained period of time spearfishing, I'll see an animal that I'm like, I don't know, I've never seen this animal in my life, which if every time you went outside at your house and a brand new mammal ran up that you didn't know what it was, that would blow your mind, So it's addicting to be in the ocean and just like see and experience all this new stuff. But it's easy to say like you would never do it, but you'd be surprised what you'll do if you kind of just expose yourself to the ocean a little by little.
Very little by very little.
Yeah.
That's I like that. I mean, same thing with you as far as like doing a bunch of stuff. I like that part of myself too, where I'm like, I'm gonna try all these things because I don't know what's gonna happen, and it might be fun. I raised ducks for a little bit, like just like experiencing all these things, and that's what you try to as parents. Like, yes, try all these things, like figure out what's cool. And I don't, as your dad, I don't care if you do something for 3 months and you decide like, no, I'm good. Like they got real excited one year we bought them a rock tumbler, and so
for that.
So
are we talking about?
Yeah, so they were excited about it, and then they didn't realize like, all right, we'll put the stones in, and we'll put the powder in, and we'll put this thing in, and put some water in. All right, turn it on, and then we hear it, and we're watching it rotate. Now what? Well, directions say we got to wait for a week, and then we can come back and look at it. No, I'm good. I'm good.
I'm good on rock tumbling day. I'm not. Geologist was never for me. Cross that out.
Yeah, we did it a few times, but that was about
it. So as somebody who jumps from hobby to hobby and interest to interest, like the one thing that I have learned is I thought early on in kind of getting into that mentality that like if you get the best stuff, you'll be more likely to embrace the hobby and like do well in it and stuff like that. And I've learned that is not the way to do it. Get the entry level stuff, and if you dig it, upgrade. Like there's no need to get the best duck. whatever it might be. But like, yeah, I started out with like a pretty lousy spear gun, basic equipment. And then, the more I got into that, like I amped it up a bit. So
Yeah, that's what we did. That's what I did with pickleball. Like I just ordered, this is a few years ago. We haven't done anything with them, but I just ordered like wooden paddles with these little cheap balls. It was like $40 for a pair. We played a few times and that was it. But yeah, you're right. Like if I was going to spend $100 a paddle, it wouldn't change the fact that I'm not pickleballing right now. So
no, or like, yeah, getting a $1,500 guitar, like maybe it's a little easier to press the strings down and get like the pure sound because it's a nice guitar, but it's not going to make you like a better guitar. If you're going to get into it, you're going to get into it. So
that was one thing I did too. I bought a guitar one time to see if I could. It was like $100 and I got it and I played it for a couple months and then I'm like, I'm good. I've experienced it.
I suck at music. Never. I don't get, like, musicians are off. People that can like learn instruments and learn languages to me are like, freaks. I can't do it. Like even when I learned, quote unquote, to play the bass, and I mean, I played a ska band where, if Russ Courtney listens still, he knows he was playing ska at the same time. Like the bass is like it's like walking bass lines, and like it looked like I knew what I was doing, but I literally was like, okay, so it goes finger on this string 3rd fret, then this string 2nd fret. I didn't know that I was playing CG. I didn't know anything about scales. So the second that I stopped playing music to like start focusing on comedy, I have no idea how to play the bass guitar anymore.
Oh, really?
And there's videos of me like at 16, just like, and I'm like, oh yeah, look at me. And they're like, oh, can you still play? Nope, no, I couldn't even do a quarter of what I'm doing right there. So wow. But I'm also, again, I'm not like you in the sense that I do a lot of things halfway. I will happily give up on something if I'm not good at it like immediately.
Yeah, I've done that too. And that's just because I'm like a little interested in it. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna see what this entails. And then I figure out where I'm like, all right, my little interest isn't enough to keep me at this. If it does grow, then yes, I'll keep doing it. Or if it's like comedy, I'll do it for 4 years. I'll quit for 6 years, and then I'll come back to it in a very limited capacity. Speaking of music.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Wait, what were you gonna say? Go ahead.
So what's your mentality with the kids? Like, let's say Mateo, I know football, this would never be the case with Mateo because he's gonna be a savant in it. But like, let's say halfway through a season, Mateo's like, I really don't like football, man. I don't want to play. Are you like the way I imagine your dad, and certainly my dad was, where they're like, no, you're finishing your obligation and then you can give up? Or like, because I know you want them to experience things, you want to try things, but like, is there a degree that you make them stick with it? Or where do you stand on that?
Yeah, when he was younger, he tried soccer. I think he did it for a couple seasons. And then the last time he tried it, he quit. But he was only like, I don't know, 6. So there was nothing to gain from me saying, all right, well, you started it. Now you got to finish it. He's 6 and this season.
You don't really quit anything when you're 6. You just
no.
Yeah, you just don't do that anymore.
But yes, if next year he's going to be in 7th grade, if he starts football and says, I don't want to play anymore, I'm going to say, hey, you got to finish this season, man. Your teammates are counting on you. You got to finish it. And then if you don't want to do it, you don't do it. My dad had that same conversation with me 3 years in a row for football. I'd start it. I'd cry. Didn't want to go to practice. Didn't want to play. And he'd tell me to finish it out. Next year, same thing. I think it was 3 years in a row where that happened.
And you wouldn't have signed up the next year. He wouldn't have made you sign. He would have just made you finish the season. So like, you wanted to sign up the next season.
And he even said, like, are you sure? Because last year you didn't want to
last year
play.
You cried.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Mostly because I didn't want to
now. So that software crying was fine, dude. But like, you can't be doing that.
It was mostly because my brother played on the older team, and I was on like the junior team, and he was on the older team. So he played. So I'm like, yeah, I want to play. I want to be like my brother. That's what kept me going. But yeah, it was my dad's like, I don't know. I was like, yeah, I want to play. Okay, here you go.
Yeah. So, that was my dad's mentality too. You didn't, if you got to finish at least whatever, the obligation period is. Yeah.
I want to bring up concerts because I'm going to I haven't bought tickets yet, but I'm planning to go to a concert in December. And I'm not a huge concert person, but I keep missing out on these other concerts that are happening. Like Yellow Card had like 20 years of Page Avenue, or not Page Avenue, 20 years of whatever the hell their album's called. Yeah. And they were doing a tour, and I've seen all these videos. Taking Back Sunday, even though they sound horrible now, because those songs weren't made to be sung by this person who this age that he is at now.
Yeah.
But like all these things. So the reason I said Page Avenue is because Story of the Year is doing a concert in Cleveland. And I asked Sparks, I text Sparks, I go, you want to go to Story of the Year concert in Cleveland? He goes, yes. So we're going. Andrea's going. And I didn't know she'd listened to the Story of the Year as much. She's like, I listened to the Story of the Year before they were even Story of the Year. I go, what are you talking about? And she Googled it. There were some other band name. I don't know what they were called.
All right. Yeah.
But she dug it. So we're going to a concert in January or in December, which I'm pretty stoked about. But we decided we're getting seats and not standing in the general admission because we're old. But have you I've never, like I said at the beginning of this long ass question, I've never been a concert person. Have you, like, I know you like music and you talk about going to shows and stuff. Is that something you guys do? Or
Yeah,
have you done?
I mean, so I love socialization. Like I love being around a table of people or a group of people or whatever, but I hate big crowds. I don't know why. It's always given me anxiety. So like I don't love like being packed into a concert if I don't have to. And as I get older, there's a concert venue here called the Rady Shell in San Diego. It's right on the ocean. The symphony plays there.
Oh yeah, we almost went there, Andrew and I. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because you were gonna go see that boy band, right?
Yeah. Oh
yeah.
down.
Yeah. So I went. It was great. So the thing I love about this, they tell you what time the main act goes on, and they tell you what time they have to be done. And I'm like, this is right up my alley. I'm like, I go to bed at like 9 o'clock. But as far as like the nostalgia goes, I will definitely like dive in. I just went to go see Jimmy Eat World, but as far as those nostalgia band goes, the band that I can go see now that I'm like, I love the stuff that you're coming out with right now is Manchester Orchestra. I would, if you have the opportunity to go see Manchester Orchestra, the stuff that they're coming out with over the last like 5 years are some of like my favorite albums ever.
I don't even know. I never heard of them.
Yeah, they were kind of like in that like brand new Taking Back Sunday circuit. They would tour with those guys, the brace out of Atlanta. But like they just went on tour with Jimmy Eat World, and I went to go see him at Petco at the Padres Stadium. And again, like seeing Jimmy Eat World, they're like, we're gonna play some new stuff. I was like, you don't gotta do that. You can play the old shit. But when Manchester Orchestra comes out, I'm like, dude, if you want to play some new stuff, let's hear it. You guys are outstanding. But
that's like Andrea's like, if we go, I gotta listen to their music. I go, I don't think they put out too much new stuff.
I doubt the Story of the Year new album is gonna blow your mind. But so short answer to your question is I like going to concerts if it's easy to get in and out, like it's nearby and the hours align with my schedule.
Yep.
And I like to, I hate when I get to a venue and if I am in a seat and they're tiny little seats and you're in the middle and every time you have to get up to go to the bathroom, sorry, excuse me, sorry. Like I want to be in the general admission section. So we just went to see Death Cab for Cutie at Madison Square Garden for my birthday. And my wife got me general admission tickets and we were like right there in the front. And it was like, it was perfect. I was looking at and I was like, no, thanks. This is good. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. I'm excited for it. I haven't been to a concert in a and, obviously going with other people, it will be fun too, but,
anyone else on the ticket? Like any other like old nostalgic bands playing with them or?
There was bands, but I did not, I don't know who they are. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's, I'm not a huge, like, I like the music we listened to in high school and I haven't really strayed from that too much. Like, my favorite album, until eternity is Tell All Your Friends. And no one will ever not top that for me.
Yeah, that I remember that was like because my first couple of years of high school, and I think the reason that you didn't see much of me until senior year of high school, like I was hanging out with like the punk rockers type guys. And again, seeing that Russ Courtney listens to this one, I think he'll resonate with this. Like there was a lot of gatekeeping in punk rock, like you're not listening to a punk enough thing, or this is too like it's too pop punky, it's too Newfound Glory, MXPX, Blink-182. And I thought that Taking Back Sunday, when they came around, and like some of those other brands like Thursday and stuff, they were like marrying that pop punk sound with like the angrier, screaming of actual punk. And it was like, okay, cool. Not only does this validate that I'm listening to like aggressive enough stuff to be like accepted in the punk circuit, but it was exactly what I needed in junior year of high school. And so I'm with you. I still will pop that album in. And if someone that I'm with has never heard it before, they'd be like, what the fuck are you listening to? But like, so I don't know if it's like the nostalgia blast that's making me love it, or if I really do still like it, but I can still pop in those albums, you know.
Well, that the what the hell are you listening to, it's the same thing with like Dashboard. So like you listen to Dashboard and you're like, are you depressed?
Dude, how did that? And so yeah, that contradicts everything I just said too, because I also fell to love like Dashboard, but I think it was because that Chris Carrabba guy came from, Further Seems Forever and Stretch Armstrong and like a lot of other like rougher punk.
Yeah.
Kind of like, validated like, no, it's okay to listen to this solo artist, but that is definitely an album that when I put on now, I can't help but like kind of grin a little bit and be like, okay, this is a little much. This is a little high school drama emo, but man, there's a place in my heart for it for sure.
But I'll freaking scream every lyric.
Yeah.
To all that shit.
Yeah.
Someone on TikTok said that he's like an emo guy and does other music stuff, and he's actually remember Andy who started the podcast with me.
Yeah,
it's a friend of his on TikTok who's pretty popular on TikTok, and but he said what is the most emo line? Someone asked him that, and as soon as he finished that sentence, I knew exactly the line he was going to say.
Can I guess?
And yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
is it Taking Back Sunday?
It is Taking Back Sunday.
Is it the truth is you could slit my throat with my one last dying breath? I'd apologize for bleeding on your shoes.
And your shirt.
On your shirt.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes, it is. And I knew exactly.
Dude, wow.
I knew exactly what it was when we started. But I was like,
yeah,
yes.
I agree. Yeah, it is.
I want to write a bit to that song because like I want Jake to play it, and then like in my head I had a bit of like, this is the music I listened to when I was sitting in my parents' $250,000 house as and not having a care in the world, seemingly not having a care in the world, but I think this is how I should feel.
Yeah.
I have my own bedroom.
Well, and from working with teenagers for 13, 14 years, it's like there's a part of you that like when I was working with middle school kids, you try to communicate it. And you try to be like, look, I know this stuff seems like it matters. And I know like the emotions you're feeling right now seem like the end of the world, but you are going to laugh. Like you 100% are going to laugh. But I think like towards the end of high school, it is still in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. But like there is some validation in some of those feelings like that. You're starting to like come online and you're starting to be like, what the hell, who am I? What am I doing? Like, and so to like kind of watch teenagers come into that moment, I think like it's all right to be that age and to sit around the basement and be like, this kind of sucks, or like I'm really confused right now, or like I'm like it's like, yeah, man, it gets tough, it gets hard, so it's like I don't think where you grew up or how expensive the house is or like how solid your family was like invalidates some of the feelings that you feel at that point in your life, because it was weird to watch it from the outside and watch kids go through that and be like, yeah, man, it's not easy to be 17, 18 sometimes.
Yeah, and that goes back to thinking about the future, like as you're when you're that age, your parents are telling you those kind of things and you're like whatever. And then, and then you get older, you're like, son of a bitch.
Dude, already like I'm what 439, and I work with people that are in their mid to late 20s, and I think that like I'm like, oh, we're peers, until they tell me how they are or whatever. And already I find myself telling them like, they're like, yeah, I'm thinking about doing X and Y. I'm like, do it. You can do anything you want. You got your whole life ahead of you. Like giving like this old man on a park bench advice to a 28-year-old. But yeah, man, it does start to resonate the more the advice you were giving. You're like, okay, now I get what they were saying. So my dad used to always say when I leave the house, instead of saying like, don't do anything I wouldn't do or stay out of trouble or whatever, he would go, hey, once you do something, you can't take it back. And he would just leave me with that. And gee, damn, Dad. And at the time I was like, okay, I know that. But like looking back on like what he was saying, it's like, yeah, man, there's some decisions you make that like whatever that is, you got to live with that decision now. And that resonates. And I found myself repeating that as I got older. So
yeah, we do repeat our parents. Where parents are the most hypocritical people in the entire universe.
Yeah, your parents are great though, man. Like they like I always loved talking to them, and they are prophetic, like the
Yeah.
way that your parents speak, both of them in totally different ways. But like, yeah, they
Yeah. I'm just saying, like I can't wait. Like, when Mateo's is 16 and 17 or whatever, and he has a beer, I'm like, I got to do something here. But I did the same thing, like
yeah
but you
yeah
have to because you're a parent,
yeah yeah yeah.
Man. Um. Well, it's been an hour. It's usually what these are.
I
I
feel like
can
every
keep.
time someone comes on, they go, man, it's been an hour, and now I feel like we haven't even talked about anything yet. That's wild. That's
It's fun, man, and it's easy to talk to you. And I had there's my maintenance guy at work always asks me, "Hey, who's on the show this week?" And I told him, "Oh, my friends." I was like, "Well, actually, I'm recording my 200th episode, but it's not coming out for a couple weeks still. And it's with my friend. We've been friends for a long time, and and I told him what you texted me. I was like, man, you've had all these different people, Olympians and musicians, all this stuff. And what am I going to talk about? I sell software. I was like, yeah, but we're not even going to talk about that. He's like, well, what does he do? And so I was talking about all this stuff, and nothing we talked about is what I told him. And it just so there's like I told how you were a teacher and you moved to San Diego. Obviously, we talked a little bit about San Diego, but we talked about nothing about teaching. You were in Brazil for a while. Like, we didn't even talk about that. Like, all these things. I was like, he has things, and that's the point of this podcast. And everyone. I said the same thing. Like, there's a lot of people have a lot of stuff to talk about. They just haven't been asked the right questions all the time, and they get excited. People get excited to talk about themselves. Everybody loves it to some degree. I'm not saying everyone's like, yes, please talk about me, ask me questions, but to some degree. And even you, like at the beginning of this, there has been people ask me questions back. But I don't think anyone has. I think there's been maybe one or two that asked me like, well, what are you into right now? So that part caught me off guard a little bit because I'm just not used to that. I'm used to just bringing this conversation, leading this conversation, asking questions, all that kind of stuff, which is what this podcast is.
yeah.
I'm just trying to steer it into more conversation type stuff, which is what this episode was.
Yeah, the worst podcast hosts, in my opinion, it's
Bert Kreischer.
Script.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck Bert Kreischer, man. I'd like to use the last few minutes of this to talk about how Bert Kreischer is the worst comedian in the spot right now. Who's actually? I know we already said we're wrapping up, but
no, we can. I don't care. I just want to be mindful of your time.
Who's your number one? Who? Whether they've come out with something great recently, as someone who loves stand-up comedy, who is your number one? Because it's easy to say this comedian sucks, but which comedian do you think is just like the number one?
I haven't listened to straight comedy in a while. Like, I haven't even watched Tom Segura's latest special. But when I see clips on TikTok, it's right now Shane Gillis is hilarious, and the clips and stuff that he has out, it cracks me up. He does a really good Donald Trump impersonation, which also makes me laugh just because it sounds so good. He has this bit about Down syndrome. I don't know if you've seen it.
I have seen that. Yeah.
I've seen it probably 20 times because whenever it pops up on TikTok, I still watch it. I like him. A lot of people don't like Matt Rife, but I like him because I could never do crowd work, and he's so good at it. And the one thing I don't know about him is what are his bits, like, because I've only seen him do crowd work on TikTok. Like, I haven't been to does he do bits, or is it just like, hey, how you doing, and start doing stuff about I don't know. I've never seen an actual bit from him. Yeah. So,
well, and it's gonna be easy to hate Matt Rife because I think even at Dane Cook's prime, you'll hear a lot of comedians say in podcasts and stuff like, I didn't like him not only because he was on this trajectory of rocket ship of success back in the early 2000s, but also because comedy was not. This is supposed to be for the ugly weirdo guy, this isn't supposed to be for you, like funny is for, this is the thing that sets me apart. You're already attractive, you don't get the funny guy. So I think Matt Rife is going to draw criticism, but I haven't gotten really into his sets. And Shane Gillis, I've seen bits here and there. Initially, I was like, I knew that he surrounded himself with comedians that I liked. And I was like, I almost felt like they just brought this guy around to make fun of him. But then when I started watching him on stage, I was just like, oh no, this guy holds his own. He knows what's up. But
a lot of comedians I know of through their podcasts, like Andrew Santino. I really like his podcast, Bad Friends with Bobby Lee. And then they bring on
too. shockingly good actor.
Yeah. I like him. But that's where I get most of the comic stuff from. I haven't, like I said, I haven't listened to a lot of straight comedy from anybody. One Shane Gillis thing that he was on a podcast that reminded me. I don't remember it was a black comic, and I don't remember his name, but he was like, yeah. And someone asked him, like, do you have live, laugh, love all over your house? He's like, no, I got black people shit all over my apartment. And they're talking whatever. And Shane Gillis goes, what black people shit do you have? Other people's things? And
Nope. You don't get to say something like that to a white guy and record it and see his reaction. I'm not doing nope, not playing. Nice try. Not canceled me. I got
Shane Gillis was the white guy that said it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, yeah. But that's the other, like, that's one thing you've learned. I mean, Dave Chappelle would not be an example of a white guy doing this, but I think like certain comedians have been like, you can't, like Jesselnick, Louis, Bill Burr, Louis may be an exception, Bill Burr, but like being like, I don't care, like outwardly, I don't care. Like the more you backpedal, the more that you fear backlash, the more that it's going to come on. But I think being like outwardly, like, I don't care what you think, screw you, like that, the way that like Chappelle has done, I think can make you invincible to the repercussions. So I'm not Shane Gillis. I'm just a dad that raises mantis and sells software.
That was so eye-opening to me, and I'm glad you said that, because I tried to make notes for the show notes, and that was one I missed. But that was crazy to me, praying mantis. I do before we're gonna wrap up here, but there is something I am on that vein, not necessarily like too terrible. It's not terrible, but there's something, another bit I'm working on that I want to talk to you about after the podcast, just to get your opinion on it, or how I should phrase this certain thing. So
I'll tell you this as we're wrapping up, and maybe this is a premise that you can take, but I was trying to work on a joke recently about, when in this culture where you can not only, like, you say something wrong now, but did you say something wrong 10 years ago that's going to come back and bite you? And I was thinking about a time I was like, well, I said something racist while I was watching basketball, and just setting it up like that. Like, what would you do? And this is a true story. I think basketball is also boring. I'm an NFL guy. And, I bet on a Final Four game that was tied with a couple seconds left, and the team that I bet on is passing in from out of bounds, and they're like looking for someone open, and they passed it to the only white guy. And as they do, I went, fuck. Like, there was, I said something racist as I was watching basketball. So run with it.
Like, son of a, I didn't mean it.
And he tried to pass it back to the same guy, and it went out of bounds. And I was like, that's why I said that. But
did you feel validated?
Yeah, man. Yeah, he's terrible. But
all right, man. Well, again, I appreciate you coming on for my 200th episode, and I appreciate your friendship. We do keep in touch quite a bit, and you're a very good friend, and again, I appreciate you wanting me to officiate your wedding, because that was I don't know any other way I would be going to San Diego for a little bit and get to see you guys and everything, and got to meet your daughter, so that was cool. So I held her for a long time.
Yeah.
So that was fun. She was very intrigued by my beard. Like,
oh yeah, man. She loves pulling beards for sure. Yeah, because she's probably like, oh, my dad can't do this because he's got the face of an 11-year-old.
So thank you. And I
facial hair, the wrinkles, the sunken eyes, the
gray hair.
The gray hair. Yeah. But no, I respect you, love you, man. So thanks for letting me be a part of this one.
Yeah, man. All right. Again, everybody. Comedy show coming up November 22nd. It'll be on the Facebook page at Levi and Lilac. Looking forward to that. So hopefully you all will be out there, and hopefully we can sell this thing out. George, again, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Happy to be here, man.
Thanks again to my guest, George Smith, for being on the 200th episode of the Nerdball podcast. Again, couldn't ask for a better guest. That conversation we had was awesome. A lot of things I didn't know. Raising praying mantises. That was wild to me. I could have talked about that for the whole episode. And a lot of stuff I knew, about him, spearfishing stuff, but it was cool to get more insight. A lot of times we're texting about this stuff, so it was fun just to sit and listen as he talked about his stories about spearfishing, almost hitting this baby sea lion in the head. But thanks for him for coming on. Thanks for him for being a listener of this podcast and Three Different Dads. It was a great episode. Thanks to all of you for downloading, sharing, subscribing, liking these episodes, commenting, send an email to the nerdballpodcast@gmail.com. Always looking forward to that, and reach out for if you have any guests or have any ideas for guests on the podcast. 200. It's pretty sweet, and I was looking forward to this, and now it's here, and now we are on our way to 300. So again, thank you all, and as always, thanks to Real JP Multimedia, Cuttlefish Graphics, I said that already, Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lab, and Big Daddy Graphics for always coming on the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. 200.